3 years. We came to Dallas in 2019 with a promise to come every year to the city, and then COVID happened. And I don't even have to go into how much COVID affected the Latino community, affected us all, but how much it affected the Latino community. So it is even with more pleasure that we are here today. You know, like those that suffered, that went through hardship. We're standing strong and we're here, and it's great to be able to be together. So this is the first summit that we do after COVID. We decided to do it here in Dallas, in Plano, and at YUM. And why Texas? Well, first of all, because Texas has twice as much as the Latino population than any other place in the country. And particularly Dallas even more. Dallas even more of that. And the population growth that we have in the Latino community will just continue growing. We will go deep into the data, but this is really exciting how Latino Texas is. And that's the second piece why we wanted to come to Dallas as our first meeting coming back after COVID. Because honestly, the roots of the Latino community are the deepest in Texas. Hispanics are original Texans. If you look at Texas, we're white Hispanics. And the Hispanic story is an American story, because Texas, honestly, what is more American than Texas? So if Texas is Latino and America is Texas, then Latinos are Americans, 100%. We're here because we matter in this state, and we're here because we matter in every single aspect of life. And also the third thing, most important thing why we came to Dallas is because honestly, Latinos in Texas are the greatest. So we're here because we wanted to actually make change with the greatest Latino leaders. In all honesty, the 240 leaders that we invited that registered, actually we had by far more leaders that registered, but the 240 leaders that we registered today, we wanted to gather you for three most important, for three main reasons and to achieve three main goals. The first one is to educate us all, to set level about the data of the Latino community so that we all are on the know, that we all know how many we are, how young we are, how powerful economically we are, how much the census data has not really trickled down so much into our brains to understand how much we have to reshift our business strategies and reshift our priorities to meet the future that is called Latino. So it is about educating ourselves because 77% of Latinos do not even know of our main contributions to the country. We don't know how many we are. So therefore, we probably feel lesser than we are. And we want to set the record straight and correct that reality through education. So a lot of the day will be around data and insights and understanding and getting into allies, also seeing the power of the Latino market. The second reason and the second goal of today is to mobilize partners, mobilize corporate America, mobilize our allies so that we can get the agenda, the Latino agenda moving. Mobilize, when I was talking just like to David and James before, mobilize from 3 years ago that we started doing this. We have more than 300 companies that have joined the Hispanic Star, that are signing the Hispanic Promise, that are saying, yes, I want to do the right thing. I want to invest in diversity and inclusion, and I want to know how. And I want to be part of an ecosystem of understanding best practices and lessons learned. And so we're here to mobilize and bring even more companies forward and bring more allies forward so that we can really, truly finalize and move our agenda. And the last, and I think that most important thing that we do with these summits is to unify our vision, unify our agenda, unify and provide a sense of community, unify the Latinos so that we support each other, so that we mentor each other, but also unify our visions. What are the one or two things that together we can push forward so that we can really break through? What are the structural barriers and the barriers that we want to combat and we want to agree on so that we are able to do it? What are the ways in which we're going to be opening the door for each other and opening the door for boards for each other and making sure that we open the promotions for each other as a true community, a community that is coordinated the way that we see other communities coordinated. And so in order to understand that way of how do we unify ourselves, how do we order ourselves, how do we create that framework, we started looking at global frameworks that can be of help. So we are looking at the Sustainable Development Goals as a springboard for putting the Latino priorities forward. What we call the Hispanic SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, are the global plan for the future of the people on the planet with 17 goals. We analyze the Latino community so that we can know how do we actually move forward and what matters to us. And we realize that there are four data shows that there are four main goals from the Sustainable Development Goals that can break through for the Latino community. Not surprisingly, is better education, better health, better jobs, and better gender equality. Those are the four that we need. We need to focus on better education, better health, better jobs, and better gender equality. And that's what you're going to see along all the day today. So today you will have a real strong emphasis on the S of the ESG. We're putting it together with the ESG so that companies can have it easier aligning their diversity and inclusion efforts towards frameworks of action that they already have to do, like sustainability. So we're trying to make it easy for you to be as diverse and inclusive and get your talent and get the consumer while you're measuring with a framework that you know, like the Sustainable Development Goals. So today we'll have a lot of these topics and data and know-how and best practices, tools like the Hispanic Promise, tools like the Hispanic Star that brand in a way, if you want, that symbol to unify us all, that ideally all of you can feel proud of, so that you can see that when you see that symbol, it represents Latino unity, empowerment, and pride. So that we all can at some point say, like, you know what, in Hispanic Heritage Month, let's see the Hispanic Star in every box of Pizza Hut so that everyone can see on the consumers that Pizza Hut is trusting Latinos as stars, and during a month are putting education data, are putting numbers out there so that we know, so that we can get educated. So we're here today at YUM headquarters. I'm really, really grateful for you to open your doors and welcoming us all. And I think that having you open your doors to all, it's really important for three main reasons. The first one is because of your footprint, because of the large footprint that you have, being the largest restaurant chain in the world, the having more restaurants than any other company in the world, the footprint that you have with suppliers, with employees, with franchisees. If we have a company like yours and 2 or 3 more companies, we can really start shifting the Latino community. And for that, we're grateful for your leadership and commitment to us. The second is that a couple of weeks ago, I went to a summit that James Fripp organized in Washington. And that was one of the most powerful and in-depth conversations I've ever seen happen about diversity and inclusion. The 60 to 70 leaders that you had there went really real about putting forward what really could look like for a company to be truly inclusive. And you're planting the seeds for results moving forward, where every employee is going to be willing to work in companies that care for them so much. And the last thing is that my first ever, when I was even like forming my thinking about like Latinos, and I was like thinking about like, should I do this? Should I do that? What is actually what should happen? And so on. The first ever PowerPoint presentation that Michelle Howard and I put together was presented to David Gibbs. David Gibbs that was sitting there in the office of my husband. I didn't even know that he was going to be listening to a Latino pitch. He was sitting there in Edelman, and he was like, Richard just came and said, like, can my wife just talk to you for a second? And I went over my really scattered and not well-defined thinking about Latinos. And David Gibbs was there sitting down, listening listening carefully to my 85 slides presentation. And so the fact that he is here hosting us today deserves an even more round of applause. So give it to David Gibbs, CEO of Yum Brands. Thank you so much for hosting us.